The Light Warriors finally confronted Xanda, and after a climactic showdown, put an end to the spiteful wizard. From the ashes of that battle arose the Dark Cloud, an entity created from the darkness, driven by the sole purpose of turning both light and dark to nothingness. The Light Warriors fought valiantly, but were completely overwhelmed by the Dark Cloud's insurmountable might. When all seemed lost, Dorga and Un appeared before the Light Warriors one last time, entrusting them with the fate of both the light and dark worlds. It was up to the four boys chosen by the crystals to return balance to the light and dark, and prevent everything from being thrust into the void. Thus, the Light Warriors set off to the dark world as the adventure continues.
Here we are, the Dark World, the final area. We must venture through this place and confront the cloud of darkness that Xand summoned to this world. But how to fight it? First, do we go this way? I think this is the way I want to go first. Get the hardest stuff out of the way first. Ah, battles! Hello, Queen Scylla. Attack! Ow! Chocobo! Blah, 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 blah. This way? Sure, this way. Hello. Fight! Fight! Our strategy worked last time, let's just do the same thing again. Ah! And just like before, Gatai gets punched really hard. It's exactly like last time. Let's use some cures. And now, let's get you back your shield in the back row for the time being. And now that I have an extra crystal shield, I could also give Daryl a shield if I want, but I really don't feel like that would be particularly helpful. See, and we still won. That was still enough damage. We don't even need the extra sword. But the extra armor can prolong our journey. Hello? This is very dangerous. But I want it. You know what, let's open with an extra shield. Just to open the fight. In case this goes really bad. Like that. Ow. Ugh. Endure the damage. Get to the front row. You, Cure 2, Daryl. No. Gadia is more important. Cure 2, Gadia. Make sure Gadia's hit points are up. Cure 2, Gadia. Gadia! Mute! Just make sure Gadia's hit points are up, because if anybody else dies, Gadia can always bring them back to life. Advance! Mute! Okay, good. And now just like that, he's completely defenseless. Now we just beat the crap out of him. I doubt Mute works on actual Xand, though. It works on the clones, because they're just normal enemies. But I don't think status effects really work on bosses in this game. He can't really fight anymore, so let's swap away this shield. Get the Ragnarok back on. Same with you. And your Masamune, just to make the fight go quicker. Okay, we did that. Azure skill up, Gatai skill up, Gadia skill up. We became a little bit stronger. Let's fix some things. Get you your shield back. And now, Azure, replace the feather hat for the ribbon. And now Azure is protected for himself. I'm just gonna throw away that hat right away. That's completely useless. Okay, we're healed up. Used a bunch of Cure 1 spells, just kept doing it until we were done. And now we continue onward. Blind. Blind's not particularly useful given the circumstances of how it happened, but maybe it helped right there. I'll never know if it helped or if Azure would have dodged that attack regardless, but let's say it helped, so I don't feel like I wasted one of Gadia's magic points by casting a useless blind spell. Skill up! And now we must make it through this obnoxious maze that's not really a maze. It's just a winding corridor. Hello, Queen Scylla. Just another one of you? We can handle another one of you. You are pitiful compared to our might. Bleh. Ow. Blind! Blind isn't super useful, but really neither is Chocobo. That extra damage isn't super significant. I would rather have the possibility of possibly reducing the amount of damage I take. And in turn also saving a magic point for Cure Magic, as opposed to doing that little bit of extra damage from Chocobo and taking her out that slight bit sooner. I don't know, I feel like just the possible benefits of blinding her outweigh the possible benefits of the Chocobo damage. Especially because the Chocobo damage will really only make a difference if we all get to attack before her anyway. Whereas with the benefits with blind, the only thing I need to worry about is Gadia going before her, which didn't happen there. Instead, Gadia went right at the very end. Either way, it wouldn't have made a difference, because the battle went exactly the same regardless. The only thing different is who got the finishing blow, and having to input a few extra commands, and I got to save on a cure spell, as opposed to saving on this useless junk. Because of all these levels, if I'm just gonna be throwing away essentially throwing away a magic point, the level 2 spells are by far the most expendable. Earth Dark Crystal. Do I have everything I want ready? You. I want upfront and wrecking shit. You. Let's refresh your arrows. Okay, there we go. My formation's right? Okay. Hello! What is this? Dark energy converges on us. Soon the darkness will overflow completely. Nobody can stop it now. You shall perish here. Everybody wants us to die. Ari-Man! Ari-Man, whatever, eyeball guy, attack! Do I want you to attack, or do I want you to do something else? You know what? Barrier Gadia. And then you attack. And then Gadia, haste Daryl. Oh, I would have liked to get the haste on those crits. Meteor! Oh, we can take it. Haste! Barrier! That won't protect against Meteor, but it might protect against some of his spells. Fight! 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 Gadia! Cure for yourself! It helped against that! Gatai falls, Gadia! Heal yourself quickly! The damage from that flame was completely inconsequential anyway, so it didn't matter, but still, the wall at least did something. Fight! Fight! Gadia, life to Gatai! Life 2! Fight! Life 2! Blizzard. We can take Blizzard. The only real problem is Meteo. In which regard? Cure yourself. Just in case. The most important thing is keeping Gadia up. The Sage is really the thing that carries you through these final battles. Cure 3 yourself one more time. Good hits, everyone. Dead. Life 2. You can take it, Gadia. Life 2, quickly. Daryl, attack! Gadia! Cure 4 yourself! Oh, he healed himself! Whatever! That's basically nothing. Life 2! More Meteos! But we can take the Meteos, kind of. Chop it up! Gadia, cure 4 yourself! Oh, good thing Flame sucks! Attack, attack! Now, Life 2, Azure! I could cure 4 Daryl. He was much more useful than Azure, but that could happen. That's why I did the thing I did. I would rather get a guaranteed heal than try to cast Daryl and then have him get killed before I get the chance to actually heal him. And then have the cure 4 go to waste. Ugh. Good job, Azure, you did something. Life 2. No, another Meteo. Endure. Fight, fight. Gadia, keep yourself up. Good job. Just hit him in the eye. Azure's down again. But it's okay. So long as Gadia is up, we can keep going. Victory! Daryl, skill up. Gadia, skill up. Let's do some reviving. We have plenty of Phoenix Downs. And then some cures and cure 2s. Alright, we're healed up. And now Gatai. Switch back to your boomerang and shield. And then get you back in the back. I am one of the 4 Dark Warriors. The flood of darkness will destroy not only your world, but ours as well. Both will return to Void. But if we join forces, we may still have time. Quickly, let us go and defeat the Dark Cloud. Okay, friend. And then the crystals just like bring hope back to this world, and I think all the crystals say the same thing if you talk to them after the fight. So that is essentially what we are doing. We are going through the Dark World, and we have to visit each of the 4 Dark Crystals to rescue the Dark Warriors, I guess they're sealed inside the crystals or by the monsters guarding the crystals or something like that. So that's basically what we're having to do, is go to these spots to rescue the Dark Warriors so that they may assist us in defeating the Cloud of Darkness and stopping that entity that was created by Zand from destroying both the light and the dark worlds. That is our mission. That is our ultimate goal, to finally bring peace back to not only our world, but the dark world as well. Can we do it? Probably. And if not, oh well, we can save and reload. We'd have to do all this crap again, but it is within our power. Unlike the evil, who cannot do that. They do not have such power. In video games, you always get to have extra lives and continues and stuff, but the enemy never gets to have that. So as a kid, I always thought, what if there was a video game that had this mechanic where after you defeated an enemy, they could just continue and try again, just like you can. And then maybe they would adapt their strategy based on how you defeated them before, kind of like how when you're playing a game and you use a continue or an extra life, and you go back into the fight with greater knowledge than you had before, so you can adapt your strategy with that foresight or hindsight or whatever and fight them more effectively. What if there's a game where the enemies had that power? You defeat a boss, but then suddenly he comes back because he used a continue or an extra life, and then you have to defeat him again, but this time, the way in which he fights and defends himself is from having learned how you defeated him the first time. So like, if you used a lot of ranged attacks, he would work around that. He would be like, okay, this person uses this opponent uses a lot of ranged attacks, so I'm gonna get in close to counter that. And then you in turn would have to counter their counter to your counter. I don't think it would work particularly well, but it's just something I thought of a lot when I was very young, because you as the player have this very distinct advantage. So what if the enemies also had that same advantage to some capacity? Hello, ninjas. Everybody split up your attacks, and then Gadia group attack them with Ifrit. These endgame enemies, our ninja can still one-shot them. Gatai could maybe also be one-shotting them if he was using two weapons, but then he'd also be getting his ass kicked. And it doesn't matter anyway, because this is probably still enough with that damage stacked on top. Really, I wonder if it would be more effective just have everybody else defend and have Gadia just wipe each battle with his summons. That would maybe be more effective or more efficient or whatever, but whatever. That would be boring, and I would get less skill points because attacking gets you more skill points than defending with, I think, every job. It's not necessarily the worst for every job. I think some jobs might get more from defending than, say, attacking or doing other things, depending on the job. Like in the case of the Mystic Knight, it might get more out of defending than, say, casting magic. I'm not entirely sure, but maybe. So defending is never the best option, but I don't believe it's often the worst either. I think using items is usually the worst for skill points, aside from running, which doesn't get you any, I don't think. Secret Passage! We can see it from the other side. And without the secret passages, this is just a long, spiraling hall, which would maybe be better to go through normally, just to get the experience. Maybe squeeze out one more level before we're done here. Maybe. That guy wasn't worth a whole lot, though. Yeah, we could get another level. Hello. Fire Dark Crystal. Now, if memory serves, first of all, let's heal. Now, if memory serves, this guy, remove, Ragnarok and shield. And then to the back row with you. And you also have your shield, yes. Okay. Because I believe this is the dragon. We'll make the darkness overflow and erase this world completely. Die, light warriors! Yeah, this is the two-headed dragon. So, everybody in the back row. And then let's start casting safe on some people, starting with yourself. Because this guy has one gimmick, and that is that he bites very hard. 2,000 damage with a shield on and in the back row. If you're in the front row and he hits you, his attacks can do upwards of 8,000 damage. And that's all this guy does. So with this guy in particular, you really just need to be in the back row. And have defensive stuff equipped. And even then, he can wreck you if things don't go well. Cast some cures, keep our hit points adequate, while I start having Gadia spread out safe spells. You, this time, Cure to him. Was that your last Cure 2 spell? Yes. So, Gatai just start attacking. Let's save Daryl next, and then Gatai. The problem is, while you're in the back row, you're also not hitting him as hard, but it's a worthwhile trade-off. To just not be getting clobbered by his full strength. Okay. That's extremely unfortunate. Phoenix down. Fight and defend. You can stay in there, Azure. Fight! 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 And cure for yourself, Gadia. Haha, that was pathetic. Alright. Keep fighting, you fight, you defend. Just to keep your health up if you do get hit, because I want to get safe on you. Oh, that was a much bigger hit. Okay, now everybody should... Unless I overlooked someone, I'm pretty sure everybody has safe on now. So now let's start attacking. And cure for Azure. Oh, just barely hung in there, Gatai. He really just dug deep. He took what should have been a mortal wound, but with his last ounce of strength, he stood back up, leaning on his sword, or rather his shield, because he didn't have a sword equipped at the moment, and then from that position, hurled the discus, striking at the dragon. And then Gadia heals him, and he's like, ah, so much better. Thank you, friend. Gadia, heal yourself. Oh, crit! That's what we don't want to see from this guy of all things. Got ya. Bahamut. Get some more significant damage. As much as we're resisting his attacks, we need to actually hurt him back as well to actually win. Let's use one more Bahamut. Ah, good job taking that damage, Azure. And now summon the King of Dragons. Our dragon is greater than you. Bahamut, Mega Flare. Kill. That wasn't a kill. Damn it. Bahamut, again. I could heal somebody, but again, I don't want the character to then get smacked and killed. Oh no, Azure's out of arrows before the Cure 4 goes off. Okay, he's still alive. I'm really glad I got some Bahamut casts. Ugh, just the fact that he's still kicking makes... I need to remember to give Azure arrows. Just the fact that this thing's still kicking makes me all the happier that I actually did squeeze in a few Bahamuts while I could. Not that the arrows really help that much. Life 2! Get up, Daryl! Continue the chopping, continue the shooting, continue the throwing, continue the healing. Ah, Azure, no! Cure 3! Get Gatai back into more safe of range. Fight! Fight! Magic! Duh! Life 2! Azure, get up! Since we're all stuck in the back row, you actually have some deeps. Urgh! Damn! I wanted to haste Azure, but I can't. Gadia has to heal himself. Azure! Everyone fight! You know what, Daryl? You're not really doing much with your fighting, so... High Potion! Get Gatai a little bit more in safe zone. And then Cure 4 Azure Gadia. Haste! Oh, we did it! Good job, Azure! You finished him off as we were getting pushed into the corners slowly but surely. And everybody gained skill levels because that battle took a while. Alright. Now let's get our standard stuff back. Excalibur! And you back in the front, and you've got your stuff already. Oh boy! The next crystal. Oops. I am one of the 4 Dark Warriors. The world began in void and shall end in void. But there is a force which can prevent this. A force which you call hope. perhaps the world will once again return to the void. But still, in the worlds of light and dark, there is hope and love left to fight this. Go, destroy those who would return the world to void, with the hope of light and dark. Da-da-da! Let's switch leaders. I forgot that I wanted to have a different leader go into each crystal area. Oh no! Gatai, no! You suck now. Yay, I can finally use one of these eye drops I brought. Perfect. It was worth buying 99 of those. It really didn't matter. I had more than enough money. But yeah, I wanted to, because there's 4 areas, 4 crystals that we have to go recover. And so I wanted to have each one be led into by a different character. But focusing on getting things done and succeeding, it just completely slipped my mind. Once I actually got here, I became so focused on just going from point to point that intention completely slipped my mind. Because I was going to have myself lead to the first crystal, then Azure go to the second, Gatai the third, Gadia the fourth, and then finally I would lead us to the end. But whatever. Okay, I'm actually getting really close with some people to level, I think. 9,000, 5,000, 5,000, you're close. And Gadia's getting kinda low on magic points anyway. What am I looking for? Oh, right, the eye drop. But still, that's 5,000. I don't think I get quite that much experience from these fights. 5,000, 9,000. Azure and Gatai are quite a bit further behind now. No, blinds did not go off in time to save Azure from being clawed, or maybe whacked by her staff, or bitten, or some other form of attack she could do. Maybe even a tackle, or some sort of grappling move. Okay, now we're a bit more in level range, because some of these fights have given us about 4,000. So Gadia, get us a Cure 2, a couple Cure 2s just to get us healed, and once again, become a Warlock. Ribbon, Protect Ring, and you have plenty of Fire 3s. Yeah, we lost MP with some spells, but not so much that it's a problem, especially because we're gonna have to Elixir at some point anyway to replenish those magic points, probably before the next boss. So in this particular situation, giving up some magic points for more hit points isn't the end of the world. Speaking of which, I forgot to adjust some of Daryl's equipment, but I don't think that one guy is gonna give us that much. Unequip Excalibur for Masamune. Unequip the Crystal Glove for a Protect Ring, and unequip the Crystal Helmet for the Chakra Hat. Getting your Vitality up to 77. And now let's continue marching out. We're going to skip that because all of the there's one treasure chest in each crystal area, but they're all just ribbons guarded by Zand clones. Which is good, but I don't really need them. I only needed one ribbon for Azure, because Gadia already has one, and Gatai and Daryl both have crystal helms, which I believe are overall better than the ribbon, because they just give... Yeah, the ribbon gives elemental resistances and status resistances that I don't believe the Crystal Helm does. But the Crystal Helm just gives higher general defense and magic defense. So while the ribbon is better in very specific situations, the Crystal Helm is better in general. Especially since at this point in the game, status effects are not a very significant problem, and a lot of the spells and a lot of the most dangerous spells we have to worry about, like Meteo, are non-elemental spells, so having elemental resistances won't help us anyway. Alright, Daryl got his level. So let's switch back to your other stuff, to your main stuff. Excalibur. Take off that hat for the crystal helmet. Take off that ring or bracer or whatever it's supposed to be for the crystal gauntlet. Perfect. And you freaking only need 43. 5,000. Gatai's basically within range. At least within range enough that I want to get him ready. How much does it cost for Gaudia to get back? 31. Fortunately, everybody else can get back to their main jobs for free. Just because they've been those jobs for so long now, and they're just not as generally expensive to switch back. Chakra. Protect ring. And then get you in the front. Gatai is now very vulnerable to getting his ass kicked, but that's okay. Because we don't need him to be like that for too long, especially when fighting battles like this. Chop, 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 chop! 14 hits! Just going berserk with the swords. And then Gatai similarly goes berserk with punches, and then Azure somehow goes berserk with arrows. Fire 3! Boom! I was hoping that would take him out. Ow. I was hoping Azure and Gatai would be just enough to take the guy out on their own, and then Gaudia could one-shot the bottom one with a Fire 3 spell. Oh well. Didn't work out exactly as planned, but it still worked out as well as it needed to. Gaudia level up. Gaudia is almost at 4,000 hit points. Daryl broke 4,000 with that last level. Gaudia is just there. And now Azure is within level range. Do I have enough? I think I have enough. I do not. At least not enough to become a karateka. But he can become a knight, which will still be an improvement if I equip him right. Because the only thing he gets that boosts him as this is a protect ring, which gets him a vitality of 44. But we can switch Azure, not to a karateka, I can't quite afford that, but I can afford knight. And I'm gonna borrow the, oh no, I can't, well, I can borrow that in a second. Head, crystal, protect, borrow the Ragnarok for a second, because that boosts vitality, as does the crystal shield. So as a hunter I would have had 44, as a knight I have 59 vitality thanks to all that extra gear, versus 67, so it's not too much worse, especially because he might not have gotten the hat, the chakra hat. So having all that stuff on the knight is about the same as the karateka, what I can get out of the karateka anyway. What do you have? You have nothing in that hand currently. Just equip the Masamune. And then we march! And get in no battles. But that's okay, there's still plenty. We still have 2 more, ow. We still have 2 more, things to, get. You defend. And then you, Leviathan. Oh no, I forgot to put Azure in the front. Because now he's using a sword and shield. Okay, that's 2 down. Many chops. Gatai, finish her off! Defeat her with your, exceptional martial arts skills. Daryl skill up, Azure level, Gatai level. Okay. Azure has exactly 4,000, and everybody has broken 4,000 hit points except for Gaudia. Okay, we're looking good. But we're still not through this place. We gotta keep going. Yeah, see, about here, I wanted to then switch jobs with each character. But oh well, we can start doing it now unless I forget again. So now, Gatai leads us to the next crystal, which has this nonsense, which is appropriate. I forgot that it was this one, but it's appropriate that Gatai leads us through this since he's a mystic knight. And this area is themed rather heavily off the Cave of Darkness in that it's these stupid invisible paths. The game just had to throw this mechanic at us one last time. So it's appropriate that Gatai, who is still a mystic knight, the job class designed for the Cave of Darkness, leads us through this. Okay, that was nothing. Fortunately, I believe this is still just as simple, more or less, as the Cave of Darkness, where it's straight paths. I don't think you really have to turn in the middle of any paths to get anywhere. The game isn't that cruel with these hidden path parts. The difficulty and confusion doesn't come so much from not being able to find forward paths, because that part's easy. It's more from not being able to see ahead. You can't look ahead and see where the paths go, and circumvent dead ends. That's just another ribbon that I don't need. See, like with a lot of this, I could perhaps see where the paths lead, or see which ones are dead ends, and just not go the wrong way. But when it's designed like this, you might wind up going the wrong way whether you want to or not. Which isn't bad, but also not really good. It's more tedious than it is interesting. Not to mention how it can dwindle what resources you have, especially if you're starting to run low. Fortunately, we are not. Yes, Gaudia's magic points are starting to get kind of low, but we have plenty of elixirs to restore those. No! It's a tease! This is not the way. So close, we have to go around the long way. The very long way. But see, that's what I'm saying. It's more like that. Not necessarily confusing. You're not really gonna get lost. You just can't look ahead and see where you're supposed to go like you can in a conventional dungeon, where you could see half the maze without having to actually walk through it and look ahead and be like, okay, that's a dead end. That's a dead end, but this will lead me to progress. It's really just preventing you from doing that specifically. Unfortunately, not the most interesting random battles. I feel like the random battles leading up to this place are generally more dangerous than these final area fights. Particularly because of the Quum-Quums, as we saw. A fight against those guys can very easily and very quickly get out of hand. Those are by far the most dangerous enemies that I can think of in this entire final dungeon. And mostly just because they can hit you with death. And there's not really a whole lot you can do about that. Especially if they just decide to come at you guns blazing with that spell and just start wiping out your characters before you even have a chance to defend yourself. It's interesting though how we're fighting a bunch of ninjas, because even mechanically with the gameplay, the ninja is the ultimate fighter class. So it's interesting how the game conveys that not only through the stats of your jobs, but also by endgame enemies, supposedly the toughest enemies in the game, or at least amongst the toughest enemies. At the very least, the toughest enemies outside of monsters are also ninjas. So by that, the game is also conveying that ninjas are just the ultimate warriors. Now, I'm trying to think. You know, this boss, I think I know which boss this is, and if it is, it's not too bad. I probably don't need to use an elixir yet. And it would be nice to save as many as I can for the final battle. Because I believe, unless I'm mistaken, in which case very bad things could happen, you need to get your stuff back. Although I didn't realize that the Mystic Knight could also equip the Ragnarok. I thought that the Mystic Knight's ultimate weapons were the Masamune and the Full Moon. I don't think he can equip Excalibur though. I believe Excalibur is exclusively for knights and ninjas. So let's make sure everybody's equipped, because if this is the boss I think it is, then I should be able to get by without needing to use an elixir yet. And if it's not the boss I think it is, then I'll start the fight by having Gadia use an elixir on himself. The flood of darkness cannot be stopped. You fools shall die here. Okay, yeah, this is just the Cerberus. Not a complete and utter pushover of a boss. Like, he can be dangerous, but he's by far the easiest boss in this whole place. Because that attack he does, that's all he does. I'm pretty sure that's his only attack. He's just gonna keep using thunder. Which can build up over time. It can become painful because that was not a weak attack on everybody. So yeah, that damage can build up. But at the same time, I feel like it's not as bad as some of the other enemies because you're not being hit by ridiculous attacks. Yes, some of the other bosses have more lulls in the damage that they deal because they'll have weaker attacks in addition to their super strong attacks. But just the fact that they have those lulls gives you time to recuperate. Or no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is their strong attacks, though, are so devastating that it's very difficult to recover from them. Whereas with this guy, yeah, his attacks are consistent, but the consistency isn't... I don't feel like the consistent... I would rather have this consistency rather than having lulls in the damage, but then having to worry about these hits that just do massive amounts of damage that can leave you near death. And the Cerberus is also just the easiest like that to basically just out-damage. Whereas with the other three crystal bosses, you really can't out-damage them like that. The Armin should be the toughest one, which is why I wanted to do him first. The next one, though, is also tough. I'm also concerned about fighting the next one. Just not quite as much as the Armin. I believe the Armin, in general, is a little bit tougher. I am one of the 4 dark warriors, light and dark, 2 worlds that pull at each other. And when those 2 worlds mix into one, a world of void will be born. The light is losing its power and the dark is pushing it aside. This is the flood of darkness. The only ones who can prevent this are you, the light warriors. Now, I shall lend you my power. The world must not return to void. So through these dark warriors, not only are we going to be getting assistance in pushing back and defeating the flood of darkness that is threatening to return both worlds to void, but we are also getting some last-minute lore as to what exactly is going on. Because so far, we knew that Zand was trying to destroy the world by summoning darkness, but we didn't really know what that meant, or didn't really have a whole lot of context as to what that entailed or anything. So now, we're getting those explanations as to learn exactly what is going on here, and how the world will end if we don't prevent it. But first, we must defeat Jormungand. The Jormungandas. Whatever the hell a Jormunganda is. It seems like the kind of thing that was probably abbreviated from something else because they didn't have enough space. They didn't have enough characters that they could fit into the box. But even then, I have no idea what Jormunganda could be abbreviated from. Kage, now that's easy. Or Cage. As a kid, I would have pronounced it Cage. as an adult who has a basic enough understanding of Japanese and seeing that they are ninjas, implying the utilization of Japanese as opposed to English, the assumption is that it would be Kage, not Cage. But it does not matter, for soon it will be dead! Like that! Your name means nothing once you are sent to oblivion. I would have rather said plunged into oblivion, but that wording did not come to mind until after the fact. I just thought of it as I was saying the other one I said. Yay, more stuff! The eye drop, yes! The eye drops are paying off! I haven't needed any of the other status things, but the eye drops. The eye drops are having value, are having worth. They were worth buying, I guess, even though Gadia could just be using the wash spell, and I would only be 3 magic points less, I think, at this point, which wouldn't be impacting me at all. So really, the eye drops were a waste. But again, I had the money. I had so much money and nothing to spend it on unless I wanted to go down and grab more shurikens, which I really didn't want to do. Especially because that's an endless cycle. If you feel like, oh, I have money, let's go get more shurikens, and then you go down and get more shurikens. But then you have to make your way back up, which means you get more money, so by the time you get back out, you again have money for shurikens. So then you have to ask yourself, do I go down and get more shurikens again? It leads to an endless cycle where you will always have money to go buy more shurikens. And I feel like 18 should be plenty. Especially against the final boss. If 18 shurikens isn't enough, then I'll be dead, probably, before I've gone through all of them anyway. So it's like, whatever. Okay, Gadia, lead the way to the final crystal. No, not run! At least we got first strike, so I won't get my ass kicked if they attack me, but I don't want to run away. Quick, Katai, kill him before Gadia makes a mistake. No! No. Oh well. Whatever. It's not like I would be getting another level before this next boss anyway, most likely. Oh, right, this one. This one also uses secret passages, but they're a bit more... they're not as misleading as the paths leading to Cerberus. It's in this one, it's more a case of trying to figure out where to go, and then when you come across dead ends down every path, then it occurs to you, there's gotta be a secret passage somewhere that I'm missing. There's a hallway that leads to all these, every one of them's a dead end. There's no indication that there's a secret passage, so you would waste time checking every single one, trying to find out where to go. And then you would eventually hit the point, because all of these lead up to similar halls. So you would get all the way to the end, see there's no paths forward, and then you would have to deduce on your own that you need to find a secret passage somewhere. And then from there, find the secret passage to both the treasure chest if you want that, as well as the secret passage to the stairs. Once you know that though, this is by far the most straightforward. I do like how each path to the crystals though does have its own theme. This one is paths leading to nowhere, and then there's the one that's just a generic simple maze leading to Araman. The one leading to the dragons is a massive spiral with a couple shortcuts if you're paying attention. And then there's the Cerberus, which is just the invisible mazes. So I do like how each one does have a theme, while not being stupidly complicated. Water, dark, crystal. Alright, now in this case, we are going to be using an elixir. So let's just make sure everybody's healed, because this guy is very similar in power and threat to the Echidna, or I just said this boss's name, but to the Araman. In fact, I'm gonna start this fight off with a couple shurikens, and then Gatai, Masamune, and Ragnarok. And Azure, reload your quiver. Actually getting low on Yoichi arrows, but we should have enough to finish this. Safety save. Save. I don't want to use the save state, but it's a safety save. It makes me feel better. It makes me feel more confident when I know I have that safety net, even if I'm not going to use it. You've done well to make it so far, but now it's over. The flood of darkness will return the world to void. Not if we can help it. Echidna, you weird thing. Fight! Throw the shurikens just right away. Fight. Fight. And then you. Haste. Yeah, I like doing the same thing. I do this. I've also done the same thing before in Brigandine on the Switch. I'll do because in that game you can do mid-battle saves, and I'll save in the middle of a fight with no intention of actually using the save or falling back on it if something goes wrong. It's just if I'm gonna do something dangerous, I'll do the save just because knowing that it's there just makes me feel more confident going forward with what I need to do. And it's kind of the same thing here. Even if I don't intend on using a save state, sometimes I like to just make them. Because knowing that I have that safety net, just knowing that that safety net exists, even if I have no intention of actually using it, just makes me feel like I can go forward with more confidence rather than being nervous that something is going to go wrong. Which is weird because, again, if I'm not going to use it, then it's like, what difference does it make? But it's just a weird mental thing. Alright, the shurikens did some solid damage. Some solid opening damage. We're cured up. Break was ineffective because of Azure's ribbon. Yes! Attack! Keep the damage up. I would have Azure cure to the party if he had magic points. But let's just cure 4. The thing is, I believe Echidna can also cast Meteor. Ow. Also do that, apparently. But I don't think it uses Meteor as often as Armin, or maybe it's not as strong. I don't know, I'm not really sure about how significantly different Echidna and Armin are, aside from their choice of spells. But since they both have a Meteor, they can both just wreck you out of nowhere. At least I'm pretty sure Echidna knows Meteor. Gear 4! Chop, 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 chop! Yeah, there's the Meteor. Ugh. Okay, that didn't seem quite as strong as Armin's, unless it was just a weak Meteor. Either way, the group heal. I was trying to decide whether to go for a group heal or just have Gadia heal himself. But let's try to get at least a couple more people within survive range. Haha, miss! Maybe the ribbon does also protect against death. Just everybody keep fighting and Gadia just keep everybody on their feet. That's all we need from you. Everyone else can focus on the damage. Flare. Ugh. This time, Cure 4 on Daryl. Get him back up. He's our second most important guy. Azure, you cannot survive that. I was gonna say, you can take it. You're tough, but then you dead. 0 out of dead hit points. Life 2. Oh no, another Meteor. Oh, that was a big Meteor. A nice, clean 4,000. Gadia, you need to cure yourself. Quake! Just barely held on. Okay, that was close. That was actually close. If Gaudia went down, we would have been in a lot of trouble. Life 2! Aha! You cast Break on the other person who is immune. Maybe you should target somebody who is not immune, and maybe your magic will matter. And then I'll have to use one of my 99 softs. Ow. Or however many softs. You got some health back, I see. But we can out-damage that drain effect. Azure, why don't you... You're not doing much damage anyway, so high potion yourself. Get yourself a little bit outside of kill range, especially because I want Gaudia this turn to heal himself. Just in case of that. Again, just narrowly survived. Gaudia is having a lot of close calls. Oh well, it doesn't matter, we win. Azure falling further behind with experience. That is his fate. Just fall further and further behind. Phoenix down. Not that it matters too much at this point. But still, it's so disappointing. And then you get back to your standard random encounter gear. The final crystal. I am one of the 4 Dark Warriors. When the power of dark or light becomes too great, a dark cloud will be born and plunge all into void. The thing which can defeat the dark cloud is the hope of both light and dark. Let us fight together! And that's all 4 crystals and all 4 Dark Warriors saved? Or something? I'm not exactly sure about the context for that. Like, were those other monsters keeping them sealed inside the crystals? Were they preventing some other thing or causing some other thing to go on? I'm not exactly sure what the context is. I assume the Dark Warriors were sealed inside the crystals and being safeguarded by those monsters that we defeated. But I'm not entirely sure if that's the context that's intended. That's just the best assumption I can have. And now, just like before, let's make our way back. And now that we've freed all the Dark Warriors, we can advance and finally put an end to this madness. Zand, who is not satisfied with his gift, must pay the... Well, he's already dead. But we must stop what he put into motion. And that is the dark cloud that threatens to consume all I really wish you could save. But you can't cast exit either, though, so it makes sense that you can't save in that sense, because otherwise you could wind up stuck and unable to get out of here to do any grinding you might need or anything. But it's still dumb, especially because of how long this place is. That's the biggest problem with not being able to save, is just how long this is. And that's another reason why the save state just makes me feel better. Wait, I screwed up. Come back. Because originally I was going to lead to the final confrontation. However, because Azure got shafted out of leading us to one of the crystals as I intended because of my own forgetting of it. Azure, you lead the way. Take the reins once again, as you once did when a different realm was saved by Light Warriors, and lead the way to once again bring peace to the world. Let us go forth with our freaking archer leading the way. That's really not much better than having a black mage lead the way. But at least in this game, it doesn't mechanically matter. Oh no, Double D! Quick! Remove his hat! Let us see what is under it after all these years. blow him up, and then Daryl go in, chop off their heads, and then remove the hat. Solve the greatest mystery, or one of the greatest mysteries of cartoons. What is under Double D's hat? That was dumb, but I'm keeping it. And now we have this stupid maze. I think I mostly know how to get through it though. The trick is that the main trick I remember is that the most direct path forward is the wrong path forward. Yeah, I have to go around this way. If you try and take that more direct, seemingly direct path, you just hit a wall. And up here, through that stairwell, I'm pretty sure is the very end? But we're so close to leveling that I'm going to take a moment to squeeze out one last level before we take that plunge to the final boss. So I'm just going to switch some stuff around and make that happen. Crystal Shield! More vitality! Gatai, I'm gonna borrow this for a second so that Gadia can double up on the Crystal Shields. Attack power 0. That's okay. We just need the stuff. Defense, though, 120. With a remarkable vitality of 73. Perfect. And we can just use all these potions now. I ended up really not needing the potions as much as I thought I would through the dungeon itself. But now we can use them here. So we don't have to worry about Gadia sacrificing all his magic points to become a Viking, because I'm just gonna use an elixir when I get into the next fight, into the fight anyway. You know what, I'm just gonna use the Medusa arrows now to make these fights go a little bit quicker. I no longer need them at this point. The thing is, I wanted to save the Medusa arrows because they can insta-kill, because they're not super strong, but their advantage is that they can petrify enemies. And there's only the 40 in the entire game. I'm also using up some of these items just to make the fights go faster. But yeah, I believe there's only the 40 in the entire game. You can never buy them. I think there are some enemies that can drop them, but with like less than a 1% chance of them dropping. So generally speaking, you'll only get the 20 Medusa arrows. So I kept wanting to save that. Well, first of all, I wanted to save them for the final dungeon, because I knew that was the place when I would most likely need them in the event of an emergency. And then even throughout this area, I wanted to keep saving them just in case an emergency came up that absolutely demanded their utilization. And that emergency just never happened, which is fine. I got through just fine without them, so it's not like it's the end of the world that I didn't use them. Okay, this is it. We've got everybody to level 50. We've got everybody healed up and equipped. Daryl's got his shurikens at the ready with all of his crystal gear. Azure is armed with his Yoichi arrows. We're kind of low on Yoichi arrows, but not so low that we're gonna run out throughout this fight. Especially because he's probably not gonna be... He's definitely the weakest link in our party. Just regardless. But he's got all of his stuff anyway. He's got to get back into the back row, though. Oops. Not job. Row. And then we've got Gatai. I gave Gatai the Ragnarok in place of the full moon because Daryl's just going to be busy throwing shurikens. So he doesn't need the Ragnarok in this fight. So I gave it to Gatai since it's stronger than the thing. And then Gadia's got his tried and true staves and that stuff. So everybody's equipped. Everybody's fully healed. I doubt Azure and Gatai will be getting much, if any, use out of their magic. But if I do need just a little bit of healing at any point for whatever reason, I do think their Cure 2 spells will be more useful than using up high potions. And I have plenty of elixirs. So I figured, whatever. 18 should be more than enough. Let's take one last look at everybody before we move on. Daryl, ninja, skill level 25. Solid stats all around. Because that's just what the ninja does. Mostly just to check the skill level. And everybody's got solid hit points as well. Everybody's got over 4,000 hit points, which is good for this final boss. Azure's skill level's 87. Because he's been a hunter for so long, he's practically maxed out his proficiency with it. Not that skill levels make a massive difference, but they are good to have. And then Gatai's skill level as a Mystic Knight is 68. Also solid stats. Everybody's gonna have solid stats at this point. And then Scadia's skill level is 29. Okay. And slightly higher spirit than intellect because of the white robe, which I think will be more valuable. Because Gaudi is mostly just going to be healing throughout this fight. That's mostly what he's going to be doing. Our two frontline guys are where the damage is going to be coming from. And Azure is going to be mostly support. And with that, let's march forward. Azure, lead the way.